going on YouTube? What is going on, fellow fantasy people? And of course, what is up, the Catch fam? So, we are bringing a special episode to you guys tonight. We're going to do our week 1 reactions. We have got Steven in the house. What is going on, man?
Hey man, I brought the guacamole. You know it's gonna be a good episode today. Yeah,
If I was a Colts fan, I'd probably be eating guacamole right now
I've
as
been
well.
devouring food to hide my emotions for the past 24 hours.
So we are going to try and make this quick and really just give, we didn't talk about this at all beforehand. I mean, to some degree, we went over, yesterday's games, but really, we're just going to, give my number one takeaway and then your number one takeaway from each game yesterday, and then probably cap this video off with some thoughts on the Monday night game coming up tonight. So let's just hop right into it, man. Cowboys Buccaneers. So I'll start with the Cowboys. My first takeaway is that Cowboy fans should be very, very excited, and Dak Prescott looks amazing.
Yeah, he does. You could really kind of leave it there. Those receivers also are going to have a great season output fantasy wise. Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add there. This offense looks explosive as hell.
And not to be vanilla, but Buccaneers. Buccaneers fans should have a lot to be very excited about, and this offense and Tom Brady look phenomenal, man. I mean, lights out.
Yeah, the only real bright spot of my fantasy team, Tom Brady absolutely roasted it up to in that game, throwing it to Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, very little though. That's probably my biggest takeaway was that,
Yeah,
how are these receivers going to be used in this offense? I think there's always going to be one of those key guys that we all spent high draft capital on drafting that kind of goes in a zero burger, right? Might not show up week to week. So
sure.
that's my biggest takeaway. And also Gronk's back, baby.
He is, and I'll add to that, man. Front seven for the Bucks looks great. Secondary though, a little questionable, man. So,
Yeah.
uh, Jaguars Texans.
Mm.
Oh, we go all over the place with this one, man. So, for the Jaguars, I will say that Trevor Lawrence some shaky throws in his rookie debut, and I don't know, man. Little concerned around Trevor Lawrence, who had a really phenomenal opportunity to come out and light things up. And I don't know, man. I just keep thinking about that one interception. I mean, I know he had a couple interceptions, but there is one that was really bad. I don't know, man. Can Urban Meyer pull this team out of the dust? He's gonna have to.
Yeah, 3 picks on the day. He was able to get 3 touchdowns. He threw it 51 times, right? So, we were talking earlier that Trevor Lawrence has not really shown up either in preseason or the regular season now. And this Texans team, I mean, yeah, the Jaguars might not be that good either, but the Texans are not good, right? They showed up, they balled out, but I'm not reading too much into that. I would advise anybody else to not do that either. But,
Yeah.
with that said, too, I mean, this Urban Meyer led offense, has been very shaky. The play calling has been very sketch. And I don't want to see a rookie quarterback throwing it 51 times in his career opener. So the biggest takeaway I think out of this game was that Trevor Lawrence has not looked like John Elway or Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck so far.
Not to add to the Jaguars, I know a lot of this had to do with game script, but I am a little concerned about James Robinson's utilization as well, a guy who I really like from a fantasy perspective. So
Yeah.
I'll put that out there too. But for the Texans, man, Tyrod Taylor can still play. I mean, what else can you really say about the Texans, right?
When the doctors aren't stabbing him, he's playing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The backfield looked okay. Some of these receivers and tight ends looked okay, but I'm with you, man. I'm not really reading into this game as a whole too much or the Texans, but I don't know
Brandon
if you.
Cooks was,
Yeah,
I thought he was somebody who stood out as just being, Mr. Consistent. I mean, this is the guy, he's done this his whole career basically, but still goes undervalued, undrafted sometimes in past leagues too. So it's like, Brandon Cooks just doing his thing year over year. And he's probably going to have a pretty good year with this Texans team
I
because
agree.
Tyrod Taylor was hitting him, from the very beginning onwards.
Yeah, interesting game to say the least. Definitely didn't turn out how I think both of us thought it would. So let's move along. Chargers at the Washington football team. So for the Chargers, my biggest takeaway, baby, Mike Williams looking
Yeah.
good out there. Some great touchdown catch out there. He looked good, and I really hope that that's a sign of him having an all-around good season. A guy that I talked about a lot in the offseason and preseason. So really happy to see Mike Williams balling out, but also Justin Herbert showed some really good poise in this game overall against a really good defense. So happy to
Mhm.
see our guy Justin Herbert playing well also.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was on the backfield of this Chargers offense. So obviously, being a fantasy owner of Austin Eckler and paying close attention to it, it does appear like Austin Eckler's injury is maybe a little bit more serious than is letting on.
Sure.
And with that said, I would say really pay close attention to Larry Roundtree, backup running back for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah.
This guy's got most of the workload at RB2. They spent draft capital on going and getting him. I think he's a really talented running back. He looked explosive as hell against that Washington defense too. So, I mean, 8 carries, 27 yards, nothing really like too sexy, but I do think this is going to be the guy to take over.
Washington football team, man. My biggest takeaway: Heineke's in the building, brother.
We got some Heineken beers out here, that's
Woo!
for sure, dude. Tyler
Uh,
Heineken's out there.
I have to add that I don't know if I can stand by my preseason pick of this team winning the division anymore. And I like Heineke, I do, but I just don't know what the future is going to look like for this team with Ryan Fitzpatrick
Mhm.
not there. Not that Ryan Fitzpatrick is great, and some people are arguing that this team's going to be better with Heineke as the quarterback, but yeah, man, I don't know. That's my biggest takeaway for the Washington football team, of course, is that they are going to have a different game plan moving forward, as definitely at the quarterback position as well.
Yeah, I think, with that said, I mean, I don't know if Brian Fitzpatrick really elevated this team's winning potential an extraordinary amount, but
Sure.
I think the biggest thing here is that Terry McLaurin's no longer, top 10, top 12 receiver, really.
Hmm.
I think you really got to draft or lower his rankings a little bit. I'm a little concerned about if you have him, I would maybe explore some trade options too. I know that sounds a little hot takey, but dude, Ryan Fitzpatrick was baked
No,
into a lot of that top 10 projection. And Antonio Gibson, maybe we see a little bit heavier of a workflow now because Tyler Heineke so far against Tampa and against Los Angeles Chargers, it's been kind of run the clock, control the ball, that type of game plan.
I don't know, man. It's hard. Yeah, that's gonna be it's a big blow for the Washington football team.
Hmm.
But I will point this out that Scary Terry's never really played with a consistent quarterback or a good quarterback. So, but I get what you're saying about being specifically a top 10 receiver. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, hey, the defense still looked pretty good. I mean, they
They look really good. They
yeah
look
they
just as good.
they held this Chargers team to a low scoring affair for most of the game until the very end, So still saw some good things out of the Washington football team Sunday. But all right, let's move on. Seahawks at the Colts.
Yeah,
Woohoo.
dude.
My biggest
I,
takeaway.
I'm starting off before you, man. I got to
Okay.
get to it, bro.
Okay, fair.
Honestly, we lost the game, all said and done. Like, I'm a little disappointed, but Carson Wentz came out there and played well, I thought.
Yeah.
I am not disappointed at all with the fact that we lost just because I know that now we have a quarterback who is going to be competent. It's not going to be Jacob Eason. It's not going to be some janitor off the streets. I mean, he threw 25 completions, 250 yards, 2 TDs, 0 picks. I mean, had 23 rushing yards too. I thought Carson Wentz looked healthy. I thought that he made the most
Okay.
of all of his opportunities. The O line looked a little sluggish, which I kind of expected because of the banged up left side of that line. But honestly, I didn't think Carson Wentz was the reason we lost that game at all. I thought it was probably their defensive secondary there. So my
Yeah.
biggest takeaway, man, Carson Wentz he's back. He's healthy for right now.
No, I completely agree on the aspect of the Colts that is the biggest takeaway for this Colts team. He looked good, but right, he also looked healthy. He looked mobile. He looked like his foot was not bothering him in the pocket. He looked good overall, and I think we're both happy to see that. Right. What's your biggest takeaway for the Seahawks, though?
uh Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, that's
That's
mine
that's
too.
my biggest takeaway. I mean,
Yeah.
we kind of started talking about it closer and closer to draft day. Was that Lockett's super undervalued? He's a great pick if you can get him. Where you got him like 6'7". I feel like sometimes you were able to take him there.
Sure.
So Tyler Lockett blew up. I mean, he was the reason the Seahawks kind of won offensively. So he still looked like he was Russell Wilson's guy. He looked
Yeah.
like he maybe earned that bag that he got over the offseason.
Yeah, it's crazy. Only 4 receptions in that game, and that. So part of that scares me if you're a Tyler Lockett owner because this is what Tyler Lockett does. He
Yeah.
goes out and he has those games like that, and he goes out and he has those games where he doesn't have those big play receptions that turn into touchdowns. So
Such an inconsistent offense.
yeah, it is, but I do think that Russell Wilson looked very comfortable in the way that this offense is rolling out, and yeah, that Colts defense, nothing to sneeze at. So I think it's a good win overall by the Seahawks. But
Another takeaway I just want to say real quick, Chris Carson, man, he looked pretty
yeah,
good.
he did.
Rashawn Penny got banged up too, so even less,
Yeah,
I mean, competition. You look at their carry breakdown, I mean, it was really kind of like Chris Carson, shit, even Eskridge, their rookie receiver, got just as many carries as Rashawn Penny did. So I think
sure.
Chris Carson might be really looking at a, running back one type of workflow with no real we were a little worried about Rashad Penny at first, right?
Sure.
We're not really having to worry about that anymore.
No. I completely agree. Chris Carson had a really good day as well. All right, Jets at the Panthers, man. My biggest takeaway for the Jets, I mean, part of me wants to say Corey Davis, of course, who I have in both my fantasy squads. He looked definitely like the true number one receiver within that offense. But I'll branch off and say that I think that Zach Wilson,
Yeah.
while he didn't play great, he showed a lot of good promise in that game, and he held in that game. The Panthers, really didn't secure their lead till the end of the game, and I think that Zach Wilson showed a lot of good poise in terms of he had some early turnovers, and he still played well throughout the game and hung in there. So I liked what I saw out of Zach Wilson overall.
Yeah, he made some of those plays that were like Patrick Mahomes-esque, where he's scrambling out and just kind of effortlessly lobs up a deep ball. So, I mean, out of all the rookie quarterbacks, I think he's really showed probably the most, chops. And he hasn't really, fallen off of that either. Great week one performance from this guy.
Yeah, Panthers, man.
Sam Darnold, baby.
Yeah, Sam Darnold looked good, man. I like that long touchdown to Robbie Anderson. I like that Terrace Marshall Jr. got targeted in the end zone. DJ Moore made some really good overall catches in that game. But my biggest takeaway, I mean, I think this defense looks good too. I think that, I mean, obviously not having the toughest opponent in the New York Jets, but they looked a little reamped, right? I like the way that they look. But man, CMC is back. And he looks like he didn't skip a beat, man.
He's the entire offense.
Yeah.
21 carries, 9 catches. Like, what the heck?
He didn't even score a touchdown. He had like over 25 fantasy points. So
he's gonna be Sam Darnold's best friend. And that's why
is.
Sam Darnold's gonna be good this year.
He is. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, nice revenge tour for that of Sam Darnold. So good to see that.
Did you see Robbie Anderson when he scored? He was doing the Jets.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, he was dancing on them. That was awesome, dude.
Yeah,
I was looking forward to that.
Hey, we talked about Robbie Anderson a lot on this channel in the offseason, preseason. So shout out to our boy.
He was one of my stardoms this week too, actually.
Yeah. Well, you got one of them right, brother.
I got a lot of predictions wrong, but I got.
Hey, we all did. We all did, man. Vikings at Bengals. Interesting game. As I was live streaming, as I coined it, the game that would never end.
This game pissed me off.
Vikings. My biggest takeaway, honestly, within that offense. Kirk Cousins still trusts Adam Thielen to an extreme degree. Had a lot of buzz in the fantasy community leading up to this season that Adam Thielen was done, and that's not the case, man. He lit it up Sunday, man.
Yeah, he did. I just I'll stay with that too. I think Kirk Cousins is he looks good again, but I think the bigger thing is that Adam Thielen has not really dropped off that much. He's still kind of the same receiver he was last year, which was a top receiver. And Justin Jefferson and him are going to pair real nicely all year.
Yeah, and I mean, looks like their third string receiver isn't anything to sneeze at.
Dude,
either,
he made
man.
some plays.
Yeah,
he made a lot of plays.
I went into that pretty heavy in my waiver wire mania video this morning. That guy looks good, man.
Yeah.
In PPR leagues, that's someone to keep in mind. But Bengals, my biggest takeaway would have to be that Joe Burrow can win some football games, man. This was a very back and forth game, and not really like the most entertaining game, other than the fact that it just kept going and going. But Joe Burrow bouncing back from that injury, I think that was nice to see. But really wasn't much for me when evaluating this Bengals team that I saw outside. I mean, okay, there's a couple things, right? Joe Mixon looked very good. Joe Mixon had a great game. And then I guess really the other aspect, I'm trying not to steal
Don't take it from me, man.
Okay.
Don't take it from me.
Okay.
Yeah, Jamar Chase. I mean, I drafted him. I talked trash. We both talked trash about him all of season because he was getting no positive publicity coming out of camp, coming out of preseason. So, I just took a waiver wire. I took him. I went away from my entire draft strategy, drafted him. put him on my bench, and of course he blows up. But dude, I am pumped for that because he
Yeah,
looked good, yo.
he looked really good.
He looked like the LSU stud. He looked like the superstar that I drafted him to be. So Jamar Chase, that's the biggest takeaway. One of the biggest
Yeah.
takeaways from the week, I think.
As I was live streaming, I was like, Jamar Chase does not care anymore that there are no LSU Tiger stripes on those footballs. He
Yeah,
is
that
ready
was
to
ridiculous. That was
go,
so
man.
bad. That was so
Uh,
bad.
yeah, and I'm happy that he had that type of. I mean, I don't want to say bounce back, but that he secured that faith. I think, and not just the fantasy community, right, but NFL fan community as well. So I was happy to see that as well, even if he's on your fantasy team.
He
Luckily,
led the team in catches.
yeah, yeah, and I'm happy to see that trust and that chemistry between
Mhm.
him and Joe Burrow because I like Joe Burrow and I want to see him progress. So, that being said, man, oh gosh, Cardinals at Titans, bro.
Wow.
I don't even know where to start with this one.
How
This may
about
have been,
Mr. Five Sacks?
yeah, Chandler Jones at Cardinals defense. I mean, we alluded to it a couple times on this channel, and I'm really beating myself down for this. Like in my 20-man league, I dropped the Cardinals defense for Carolina's defense, but I really like what Arizona did in the offseason in terms of their linebacking core. They are young. They are fast, man. Chandler
Isaiah Simmons.
Jones is there. J.J. Watt made some plays in this game. The secondary is led by Buda Baker. I don't know, man. This might be the quote unquote sleeper defense of the year. I know we have a small sample size for everything we're talking about today, but and then you look at the flip side of things. Holy cow! We
That
thought
offense,
Kyler
man.
Murray was going to be good this year, but whoo,
5 touchdowns.
yeah,
That's something else. He made Tom Brady's performance look pretty weak.
yeah. Christian Kirk looked amazing out there. I hope that stays consistent. D Hop looks like the best receiver in the league. James Conner and the rest of that backfield, right? They look very balanced overall. Gonna be scary, man.
Hopkins made a couple plays that were just out of this world.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, a
yeah,
lot of people gave so much attention to that first touchdown,
yeah,
but if you watch the second one, he caught it
yeah,
and immediately did this spin move that
yeah,
just had the defender lost and ran
yeah,
into the touchdown. I was just like,
yeah.
damn, I would hate to be playing against Kyler Murray or DeAndre Hopkins this
I mean,
week.
I think that James Conner and Chase Edmonds look good on top of Kyler Murray. Like, how do you defend those three guys from a backfield standpoint? And how do you defend these receivers? Rondell Moore looked very good. AJ Green looked old, but he was out there.
I thought he did his thing, man.
Sure, he
I
did
don't
all
want to
he
knock
needed
him.
to.
I mean, he showed
Yeah,
up. You know what I mean?
that's what I'm saying. He did all he needed to. I mean, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
tough offense to defend, man. Titans. Ooh. My biggest takeaway, I don't want to be anywhere near Mike Vrabel for the next week if I'm a Titans player.
No,
Derrick Henry, negative points?
he was terrible, man.
I mean, the game script didn't help him, don't get me wrong, but he had some opportunities. He was getting stuffed at the goal line. Uh, it looked bad overall. The whole offense looked bad, and I mean, there's some other surprise performers offensively that we'll get to as well. But uh, I don't know, man. That was bad. That's good for your
Yeah,
Colts.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's good for us. And the fact that the division leaders, the Houston
it's
Texans,
crazy.
it definitely is not what
Oh
was
man.
predicted. But let's look. I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is Derrick Henry here. I mean,
Mhm.
because for me, it's like, yeah, if the this was kind of maybe an anomaly. Like, I mean, like, I don't think they're going to come out here every week and be this bad, but this Titans team might not be the same Titans team that it was with Arthur Smith. So we all know Derrick Henry is game script dependent. If they go down, it's
It's
going to
true.
be this other running back, man. It's going to
Yeah.
be McNichols. You know,
When I was live streaming, I brought that exact point up, man. If the Titans get down, then unfortunately, Derrick Henry becomes a negative fantasy asset. And
yeah,
I'm as high on Derrick Henry as anyone in the world, man. So I don't feel good about it, man. But I think that they can bounce back from this. It's week one, right? But it is scary. And
that
I,
defense is bad.
I
They
knew,
need to fix that defense.
right. And when I was making my, game calls about an hour or so before kickoff, that's really the main point I brought up that I thought Arizona would win because I didn't think that uh, that defense could defend Arizona and then vice versa, that the Titans would be able to keep up. And
Mhm.
that was true, but just in an extreme circumstance.
Yeah,
And that was a wild game, man. A lot of fun,
it
though. I
was
mean,
fun for highlights for sure.
yeah, yeah, no kidding. But geez, a lot to dissect there. But nonetheless, San Francisco 49ers at the Detroit Lions. Probably
The most fun. That was fun, dude.
weird
I love that
game.
game.
It was a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
that
I
was a
was rooting
really
for
weird
Jared
game.
Goff in that game, man.
Also depressing though
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Okay, yeah. So from a fantasy perspective, right? Uh, Raheem Mostart, not a must start, did not
No,
play. Uh, your guy Brandon Ayuk,
don't know
no
what's going on,
warning
man.
whatsoever, did not play.
Yeah, don't know what's
Um,
going on.
and so this is something that I kind of alluded to when talking about some of the Niners running backs leading up to everyone doing their fantasy drafts. Is the way that Kyle Shanahan runs this offense, you just don't know who's going to have a good week at the running back position, right? And I still think that's true. I mean, Trey Sermon was a healthy scratch.
Yeah, it didn't even suit up. Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, of course, I do think that you should target some of these Niners players in the waiver wire right now. But overall, man, you still need to be leery, right? And that's kind of my takeaway is maybe from a fantasy perspective, stay away from this team because it's a gamble every week. I mean, think about the quarterback position. We don't know when Trey Lance is going to be in there more than Jimmy G, who, by the way, Jimmy G looked very good in this game overall, outside of that opening fumble he had, right? But same with the receivers and running backs. And really, outside of George Kittle, there's not a safe fantasy bet, if you're asking me.
No, no. I mean, yeah, that's. I think the biggest takeaway too that I had was that this offense, while it's so talented and there's so much potential, you really got to have a lot of consistency elsewhere in your team
Yeah.
to be banking on one of those guys. Like for instance, those things with Ayuk where he just doesn't play happens. And if you got one of their running backs in your lineup, you need to be prepared to go from 30 points to 0 points in a
Yeah.
hurry.
Yeah. And that's
Because
how it's been historically, right?
yeah, so and also be monitoring the depth chart up until kickoff with these guys. I mean,
Yeah.
holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway too is that, you know, is this 49ers team going to maybe stay with this carousel quarterback maybe a little bit longer? Because Jimmy G did look so good.
He did.
They used Trey Lance, but I just think Jimmy G's got to lose the job first.
We'll see what happens. I
Yeah.
mean, my biggest takeaway for the Lions is a very poised game by Jared Goff. I
Mm.
really liked what I saw out of Jared Goff. I really liked what I saw out of Dan Campbell's biting at the knees Detroit Lions hanging in this game. Uh, I like what I saw out of Jared Goff. I found myself rooting for Jared Goff within this game. Wasn't surprised that they didn't finish it right, but I definitely think that this team has some fight in them, and that maybe they're not as bad as we thought. Although I will say defensively, they looked pretty atrocious overall.
Yeah, I think in terms of fantasy, that running back committee with Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift is absolutely disgusting. Those
Yeah,
guys cooked each with 25 points. So that's awesome. But my biggest takeaway for the Lions is just that Dan Campbell's a real deal, man. I love him. I don't care if he's got terrible coaching skills, which I don't think he does either, but this guy's a motivator, man. This guy
sure.
got this team together. Even when you're watching the 49ers take a knee at the end of the game, the Lions are on the line, like ready to fight. Like they're going at the O line. Like
Biting at the knees, brother.
that's all Dan Campbell, dude. That
Yeah,
Detroit Lions team would have quit last year. And I think that's
yeah,
why the 49ers let such a lead up because I think
yeah,
they were like, we're up 21, game's almost over. And the Lions were like, nah, not this year. We're going to
yeah.
come back. We're going to keep going.
It was a fun game. It definitely was.
They
So,
still suck, though.
I mean, probably true. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Steelers at Bills. This was a good game, man.
That
This was, I
defense.
mean,
That
arguably really the
defense.
best game of. I mean, you could argue, right, of the day. Defense. You're right. I mean, my biggest takeaway, I think, along with yours for the Steelers, this defense is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
This defense and their special teams unit played very well too. A block punt return for a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I would like to add, I still don't think we should sleep on the Steelers' offense. I mean, they don't really have to do a lot. You know, it's kind of similar. I mean,
Did Najee Harris kind of sketch you, though?
uh, a little bit.
Look at that stat line 16 carries, 45 yards.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
pretty
great.
bad.
I will
That's
say
pretty bad.
this. Well, we'll get into that in a second with the Bills, right? But if you think about the way that the Steelers team is built, you know what team it reminds me of?
Who?
Peyton's team, the year they won the Super Bowl with the Broncos, where Peyton didn't have to really do a whole lot.
Yeah.
You know, He had offensive weapons around him, right? So you look at the receivers on this team, the weapons are there. A pretty solid run game, which I think Najee Harris down the stretch can do. Then you look at the defense just loaded. The
Insane.
defense is
Yeah, the
winning
defense
the
is actually.
games for this team. I don't know, man. I think that this Steelers team is going to really be a force to be reckoned with throughout the whole season.
Hmm.
And Ben can do enough, and this offensive line is good. I don't know, man. I think we maybe the tight ends are good. Pat F had one reception. I don't care. He looked like a beast, man. Eric Ebron looked good, right? And
You
if
better have
they
your chin strap suited up when you come to play the Steelers, man. They're gonna hit you in the mouth.
and Deontay Johnson got banged up early and came back, but while I was sitting there watching him, like it doesn't matter because now you got James Washington in there. Like
Yeah.
uh, people can go down, players can go down on this team, and it just doesn't matter. There's a lot of depth. I don't know, man. I like this Steelers team. I really do. But speaking of the Bills, man, this defense really surprised me. I have not been high at all on the Bills defense, and I think that they played pretty well yesterday. And I think that was the more impressive thing that the defense was able to keep the Bills in the game because their offense really looked out of sync.
Yeah, I think the Bills defense is really good. I just think they don't necessarily perform fantasy wise at a
Sure,
great rate. I mean,
sure.
even this game, they didn't really get a whole lot of turnovers or sacks even. And Ben's a hard guy to sack, but they really just, you're not going to get the points that you need, right? I
Yeah,
mean, if this defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers wasn't there, this Bills team would have won,
yeah.
right? But yeah, I mean, on the Bills side, that offense,
Shaky.
yeah,
I mean,
looks shaky.
against arguably already the best defense in the league, right? So maybe we're not being fair, but just shaky, right? You expected more out of this offense, right, and out of this team as a whole. Um, so I don't know. I think the Bills can bounce back. Don't get me wrong, but a tough loss for the Bills to say the least.
Zach Moss, a healthy scratch.
Zach Moss was a healthy scratch. You are correct, which was good because he's on your team.
But yeah, I mean, just it's just ridiculous. I mean, this running
Yeah,
back core is really split too. But I mean,
yeah,
I will say the only real optimism that you got from this Bills offense was Stephon Diggs, 9 catches. That's really good. It seems like that
yeah.
target share is going to stay the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Gabriel Davis, who I dropped in my 20-man league, did come out and score a touchdown. So that was nice too, of course. Anyways, Eagles at Falcons, man. Uh, this Eagles offense, I thought looked great.
And their defense
Yeah,
holding the Falcons. Yeah,
yeah.
jeez.
Falcons, on the other hand, different story. Bad, 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 bad. I was very surprised. I thought that this Falcons team would come out and play a lot better
Hmm.
overall. So I don't know what to think about this Falcons team, man. Uh, didn't like what I saw offensively at all. And I think you're absolutely right that the Eagles defense played pretty well overall. But man, I like this combination of Jalen Hurts, right, with some Miles Sanders sprinkled in there. I like these skill position guys that they've got. I like this offense for the Eagles right now. I really do.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts was kind of the biggest takeaway I had on the Eagles that he came out and he proved that, they made the right decision moving on from Carson. And this whole Deshaun Watson trade rumor needs to stop, dude. Jalen Hurts is here for a reason.
Yep.
He absolutely balled out. Like this guy had zero blemishes, in my opinion, and turned, I thought, every drive into the most optimum situation. He can run with the best of them, and he can make all the right passes. 3 passing touchdowns, 0 picks. That's great. I talked about it earlier about how I thought this guy had fantasy MVP type of potential.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know if he went against that. Like, I think he really
Yeah.
has shown.
I will also say that Matt Ryan really surprised me. He played abysmal, man. He played bad. I really thought he was going to have a much better game than he did. So, yeah, Eagles look great, though, man. I'm happy to see it, man. So, Browns at Chiefs. Probably the best game of the whole
Hmm.
afternoon. I really, I mean, I liked some of these other games a lot, right? Steelers at Bills, right? Liked a lot of the different things I saw, but Browns at Chiefs was fun for me, man. Browns came out, and I mean, they had a big lead, but you just can't underestimate the Chiefs, man. Before moving on to the Chiefs, I liked almost everything that I saw out of the Browns offense as a whole. Um, the most disappointing thing was Baker losing the game
Yeah.
by throwing that interception, right? But that offensive line looked ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um, Nick Chubb looked great. Kareem Hunt still looked very good, had a good stat line on the day. Odell Beckham did not play. Pretty last minute decision,
That's my
right?
takeaway from this.
Big deal. But Jarvis Landry looked really good out there. The tight ends on this team looked good. I think they'll bounce back from this, but it's a big blow, especially in the fashion that they lost because they were in a prime position to win this football game against arguably the best team in the league.
Yeah, Baker was really disappointing for sure. Zero touchdowns for the pick. I mean, come on. How do you do that against Kansas City Chiefs? I mean, especially when you're scoring 29 points, like you got to do something there. But yeah, my takeaway is like Odell Beckham. I mean, people have spent a lot of draft capital going out and get him. And if you don't even want to talk about fantasy football, I mean, dude, where have you been for the past 2 years? Like,
Yeah.
you're still inactive. Like, I'm not trying to talk trash about the guy or anything, but it's like,
Yeah.
at what point, dude, like you're not anywhere close to what you used to be anymore.
Yeah.
Like this is getting kind of
It's
ridiculous now.
yeah, I can't disagree with that, man. Yeah, I mean, I
People
think
went out and drafted this guy ahead of some like other really big studs.
yeah, yeah. That was really why I stayed away from him because just always a question mark there. I love Odell Beckham, but yeah, we really want to see him get back to that true form, or not really even the true form, to something close to where he's helping out this dynamic offense, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to see that as well. But Chiefs, man, I don't know what my biggest takeaway is here. They played exactly how I thought they would play.
Hmm.
I mean, although that they gave up, or didn't have the lead early on, so to speak. It's like the first time Patrick Mahomes didn't have a lead in a game like ever or something, some ridiculous stat, right? And they didn't really surprise me with the fact that they came back from being down and that Patrick Mahomes just throwing crazy bombs across the field to Tyreek Hill, who was wide open, right? Travis Kelsey balled out in this game. I mean, I really just wasn't surprised. It was exactly what I expected.
Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked pretty involved with the offense.
Yeah,
Very similar type of story though as last year.
yeah,
Got some carries, got some targets, not much of an output.
sure.
So this Chiefs offense, I think it's very similar to one last year, which
Yeah.
just so happens to be the best offense in all of football.
And I mean, it's just always fun watching Patrick Mahomes. I mean, what did
Mhm.
he say? I don't know if this quote is real.
It was
Uh,
like, fuck it, Tyreek's down there
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I can't disagree with that. So yeah, we love to see it, man. I think Kansas City is going to have another fantastic year.
Yeah.
So let's get this one out of the way, man. Next on the list, Green Bay Packers at the New Orleans Saints. I mean,
Gosh.
starting with the Packers, I'll put this out there. Okay, there is buzz out there, a little bit of a reaction of people saying that Aaron Rodgers played how he played on purpose. I don't buy into that
Yeah.
whatsoever. I just think that Aaron Rodgers had a really bad game. I think that the Packers as a whole had a really bad game. I
Mhm.
think that even from a coaching standpoint, this game was bad. Uh, I think that they will bounce back, but definitely raises a big question mark as to how elite is this team, and are we gonna see anything close to what we saw last year? Uh, I don't want to like bet against Aaron Rodgers, man, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when we broke down the NFC North, we did talk about, the fact that Aaron Rodgers, outside of last year's MVP season where he absolutely cooked, there was definitely, a story to be written about how he is kind of falling off, which
Yeah,
is why the Packers were like exploring outside options. So it's like this kind of performance isn't totally outside the grain of what the projections might have been.
yeah,
This was a game where I did think Aaron Rodgers looked more sluggish than usual. I don't think he did this on purpose, like you're
no,
saying too. I,
no,
I just I do wonder though, like, was he putting in the work in the off season? Like, was he doing all those steps, or was he just hanging out with his fiance? Like, was he just hanging out in Vegas and in Cali? Like, this guy's hair. I mean, it's awesome, but it doesn't really scream, like, oh, I'm going out there and training all day and
sure,
night to get to beat Tom Brady, because that's what Tom Brady's
yeah.
doing, man. How do you
Well,
consider yourself the GOAT if you out here playing like this?
sure, I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I mean, I will say, outside of the offense, the defense played very poorly as well. And overall, everyone just seemed to be frustrated and not in sync. So, uh, And even, Matt LaFleur seemed pretty flustered after the game. So it's concerning all around, but I think that they'll be able to bounce back.
Mhm.
But we've talked about this a number of times on the channel, right? Very difficult schedule for those Green Bay Packers. So these are the type of games that they can't afford to lose, right? So it'll be interesting to see. But I still have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of buzz around this game, especially with the type of offseason Aaron Rodgers had. And I think there's no reason to panic quite yet. We've got, what, 16 more games to go, right?
AJ
Yeah.
Dillon, almost the same amount of carries as Aaron Jones.
Aaron
That's pretty
Jones,
weird.
very disappointing. I mean,
Yeah,
in my 20-man league, that's my first round pick. Uh, Very bad game. Game script didn't help him, but he
no.
is a running back that does catch the football as well. So disappointing game from our guy Aaron Jones overall. But the New Orleans Saints, man, I called it. I called it. Don't sleep on Jameis. Who cares about 30 interceptions, man? Did you
He
see
doesn't. He
the
doesn't.
swagger out of Jameis Winston yesterday?
Yeah.
Um, I liked what we saw out of this Saints team. I liked the way that this offense looked. I liked how they utilized what they had. And don't get me wrong, the way that this game script was going, they were running it back out onto the field within like 20 yards of the end zone. Like it seemed like every other minute, right? But still, you got to give some credit to Jameis Winston, who is a player who a lot of people have had doubts around, who came out and played very well, played with a lot of confidence. And I just really liked what I saw, not only out of the Saints offense, but let's give some credit to the Saints defense, man.
Marshawn Lattimore,
Yeah, yeah,
stud,
baller, man.
absolute stud. Yeah.
He left the game, some point during the game, can't remember off the top of my head, and I was like, oh no, that's not good. Devontae Adams is about to eat. And as soon as Marshawn Lattimore came back into the game, he's a great corner, a very underrated corner. But also, this defense had a game plan that they stuck to, and they looked good. They looked really good. I think this is another defense that we have to take a little bit more seriously overall.
I really one of my biggest takeaways from this game in general, excluding which team, is just that like I don't know if I want to read too much into anything that just happened.
Sure, I
It's
think that's
kind
fair.
of like a just in the dust.
Sure, I think that's fair. And don't get me wrong, dude. I think Jameis Winston is going to make a lot of mistakes this year.
Yeah, he might
But
throw
I,
5 picks next week.
yeah, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I get what you're saying, but I was still really happy, especially like from a fantasy perspective in your deeper leagues. Like Jameis Winston was my after I drafted Tua, I was really trying to draft Jameis Winston as well, and in like super flex leagues, right? I think that a lot of people got really good value out of Jameis Winston, and if he's available on your waiver wire, this is a guy that you need to consider, right?
Mhm.
But nonetheless, man, let's move on to the Broncos at the Giants. Man, I mean, I have to put it out there again. My biggest takeaway, of course, for the Broncos is Jerry Jeudy, high ankle sprain, absolutely devastating. Couldn't have had a worse fantasy scenario for any viewers of this channel. Because if you guys have actually been listening to my advice, then he drafted Jerry Jeudy. But hey, injuries are going to happen, man. It's unfortunate. It sucks because he looked great out
Yeah, he
there.
did.
But outside of that, Teddy Two Gloves looked good, man. This
Hmm.
offense looked in sync. A bad Giants team overall, right? So that's small sample size, but I liked a lot of what I saw out of this Broncos team yesterday.
Melvin Gordon looked explosive. He
Yeah,
looked like he was, the Melvin Gordon of old, the Melvin Gordon that got the contract.
he cut his
And
dreads.
yeah, he did. Yeah,
Maybe it's something to do with
that,
those dreads
that was a
weighing him
little
down.
disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
didn't
I think
recognize it.
Javonte Williams is going to have to wait a little bit longer to take over that backfield. Although he did
He had a good stat
lead,
line.
he had 14 carries as
Yeah,
opposed to Melvin Gordon, who had 11. So,
yeah.
maybe it just he didn't make the right play out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Melvin Gordon had that crazy 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
So if Javante Williams breaks one of those, then it's going to be interesting, right? But I think that both these backs looked really good overall. Noah Fant looked good. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, man, one of the first
Hmm.
receivers I ever talked about on this freaking channel, and he looked good, man. So I'm happy. I liked what I saw out of the Broncos, but the Giants, they hung in this game all right. Uh, but I don't really know. Even my biggest takeaway for the Giants, I guess, would have to be Saquon Barkley not really involved in this game. Uh,
Nope.
I don't know what to think about this team at all, man. I don't like this team whatsoever. I think I know who you're going to bring up. There's one player who I was really happy to see who performed well, right? But outside of that, man, I don't know what to think about this team. Daniel Jones played okay. He stayed, he kept his team
Don't
in
give him
there.
that.
But I'm not. I'm so against being a fan of Daniel Jones, man. I just don't think he's that franchise quarterback. I don't know what to say about this team.
He had a touchdown with 1 second left. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to kind of take that away from his stats. But
sure.
yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, goes another one of the only predictions I got right. Sterling Shepard came
Yeah,
out, balled out. He was definitely their clear cut number one threat at receiver.
yep,
7 catches, 100 yards, 113 yards, and a touchdown. He had a
yeah,
great fantasy day. This is a
yeah,
guy who went undrafted. So if you picked him up, you were very happy with his output.
yeah.
But honestly, man, I mean, Saquon Barkley, he might not finish with 2 games under his belt with 100 yards total. He plays Washington next week. I don't really see anything good coming at Saquon. And I tell you what, if you're in a league and somebody's antsy, maybe starts off 0-2 and has Saquon Barkley, and he has another terrible performance, which he will against Washington more than likely, go out and make a trade offer. Because I tell you what, after that, he's got Atlanta, and we just saw Atlanta get eaten up. I mean, that's a good opportunity there.
Sure. So just Atlanta. Is there any other promising
I
game?
mean, no, I mean that was just the games I checked right after that.
Okay.
But yeah, but I mean that's just after that. I think it is going to maybe open up
Yeah.
a little bit. He's got the
I
Saints,
think
the
he's still
Cowboys.
dealing with some
Actually,
injuries.
Saints, Cowboys, Rams is the other
Ooh,
ones. So, dude, yeah, this could be
ooh.
rough for fantasy owners. But he is a great talent. But yeah, dude, it's
It's a
it's
weird team, man.
it's
Kind of
not looking
wish,
good.
kind of wish Saquon was on a different team, but nonetheless, man. Yeah, Giants. Blah. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Dolphins at Patriots. This was a good game, man. This was a really close game, a low-scoring affair. My biggest takeaway. You already know what my biggest takeaway is, baby. Tua time leading his team to a victory. I don't care about the stat line, man. Tua time gets the victory by 1 point. Tua is 1-0 to start the season. Couldn't be a better start after one game.
Better
One
than
and zero.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I do like the way that this Dolphins team played. But I will say, as much as I want to be on the Tua time hype train, the Dolphins hype train, uh, it's a little bit of a concerning performance by this team overall. They stayed in there and they actually played in very similar fashion to how the Patriots played. So I'm interested to get your biggest takeaway from the Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins, I would just say probably with Jalen Waddle. I was really
Yeah,
excited about how he played and the fact that he looked so explosive, similar to him in college.
yeah.
I'll say though, I mean, I know you're going to gas up your boy Tua, but I think he looked just as shaky as he did last year. If he had to go through one or two reads, it was like he didn't know what to do. He looks
I
not that fast at all when he gets out of the pocket. I mean, that one pick he threw to the Patriots was could have lost them the game was
yeah.
terrible. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, get all angry, dude. But Tua did not look good.
I think he looked much better at the beginning of the game, and
Yeah,
as the game went on, he looked worse, which is definitely concerning. But he got the victory. He got the dub.
but
So
you could say the same thing though on the Patriots side. How did you feel about Mac Jones? Because my biggest takeaway was I was a little concerned with how he played.
I would agree with that sentiment, right? I don't know, man. I just didn't see anything exceptional out of him, right?
Hmm.
And I think the thing to keep in mind is that both these defenses are pretty good overall. Um,
And they know each other well.
they know each other well, right? I think that's a great point. I wasn't ecstatic from what I saw out of our guy Mac and Cheese, Big Mac.
Hmm.
But I think he's got a lot of time to keep maturing, and I think that he has to, right? I think he knows. Did you listen to his press conference after the game?
I didn't hear
Right.
it.
I think he's scared. I think if you're under Bill Belichick and you ain't winning games, you're scared, man. Um, yeah, there are some questionable throws, right? There were some good throws. A very just inconsistent game, if you're asking me. But he also didn't really finish the game, so I don't disagree with you at all. And I wish it was different because I really was looking forward to these two young quarterbacks battling it out, and
It's a pretty bad duel.
it was anticlimactic to say the least. It was kind of built up from my own weird fan base of to a time and mac and cheese,
Hey,
the big
Damian
shootout.
Damian
Yeah,
Harris, though, I think that's the biggest bright spot out of this
sure.
game. Almost 25 carries under Bill Belichick at running back is like
Yeah,
unheard of. That's
yeah.
absurd. And he played extraordinarily well. I mean, 23 carries, 100 yards, didn't get a touchdown, but man, he looked fast. When he
And
got to the outside, it was over.
Nelson Aguilar had a touchdown, who I talked about a ton on this channel that didn't
Yeah.
draft. And Mike Gesicki with the goose egg versus you in fantasy, which really, really upset me. Sorry to all you guys who I got to draft Mike Gesicki, apparently. We talked about this earlier, and you made a great point that Bill Belichick does a really good job of taking away that X factor on his opponent's team. So I'm going to chop up my fantasy, advice to Bill Belichick coaching against me and
Yeah.
nothing else. So Mike Gesicki, I'm a little
Screw you.
concerned. Yeah, I'm a little worried about that goose egg that you gave us. But Chicago Bears at the LA Rams. I want to get your takeaway from the Chicago Bears right off the bat.
David Montgomery,
Okay.
stud, absolute beast. You hit his drum all off season. You drafted him. Um, this is the Rams defense we're talking about, best in the
Yeah.
league,
Yeah.
and he made them look stupid. I mean, he looked way faster than he ever has in his entire career.
He looked tough.
They need to drug test him because I think something's up with this guy. He looked
Uh,
really good, man.
it's a great point. I thought you'd be going a different direction with that one. And yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, right? I get some things wrong, like Mike Gesicki, right? I get some things right, like David Montgomery,
Well,
right?
Andy Dalton sucks. I mean, I could go
That
that direction.
that's the direction I'm going,
Yeah.
and I think this is interesting, right? Because Justin Fields had that design run in which he scored on, right? And a lot of people are, referencing that play and saying the fans know Justin Fields needs to be out there, but it's a design play for a running quarterback. I think a lot of other quarterbacks could have made the same play. But with that being said, I mean, extremely difficult defense that you just alluded to. So maybe we should give Andy Dalton a little bit of a break. But I'm
No,
just saying
no.
a little
His
bit of
first
a
pick
break.
in the red zone was like
I'm
non-excusable.
not I'm not defending Andy Dalton, but I am making the point that this is probably the best defense in the league if you're asking me. But with that being said, Andy Dalton looked like absolute garbage.
Yeah.
I'm
Gosh.
not disagreeing with that. He looked bad, man, like quite bad. And
Yeah.
the fans are going to be beating that drum, like we've talked about on this channel quite a bit. That we think Justin Fields is a prime candidate to be, the first rookie quarterback who's currently on the bench to get out on the field. And yeah, man, I think that Justin Fields is proving what he needs to prove. But I do think, when you're within 5 yards of the goal line and you're running a design play to a quarterback, I mean, I don't know.
He still had to outrun those guys, and at the
It's
same time,
true.
he did have two passes and two completions. I mean, he
Sure.
looked poised. He had the team looked more hype when he was on the
Sure.
field because
Hey,
Andy Dalton was throwing terrible passes.
I'm all for Justin Fields being out there, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying, let's see a larger sample size before we jump to any conclusions and get the red rifle a little bit of a break, man. Come on,
Hey, a team that I'm happy to jump to conclusions to is the Rams. Those
okay.
guys, holy shit, they look good. They look like they could be in the Super Bowl for sure
I want to get
tomorrow.
What's your biggest takeaway on the Rams?
After Matt Stafford threw that deep bomb on his first pass, I was like, yo, this offense looks insane. I will say though, I don't want to take away from potential thunder that you're about to drop here, but that running game looks extraordinarily sketch.
Really,
I think the run
man.
game looks
I don't
sketch.
know why everyone's hitting the panic button on D10Ds, bro.
I just
I think when he was in there, he looked good. He had a pretty good stat line overall too, against a very good front
yeah,
seven.
that's a good point. That's a good
And
point.
I heard a lot about this today. People really panicking
Mhm.
about, oh, the Rams need to go and trade for a true RB1. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I think that Darrell Henderson had a good game. And when I was watching this game, I thought when he was getting the opportunities that he played quite well, actually. So, and I mean, it took him a while to score a touchdown, right? But he had a pretty good stat line overall. So I'm not panicking. And when Sony Michel was in there, he didn't look that great, but he looked good
Yeah.
enough, right? And would it hurt to add some running back depth? Probably not. But that was my biggest takeaway is actually that I think that Darrell Henderson played very well.
Okay.
And on top of that, I don't think that this running game needs to be that good
No.
because this passing game is gnarly. And that chemistry between Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp was like, holy cow. And Robert Woods looked good. Tyler
Deshaun
Higbee
Jackson.
looked good. Deshaun Jackson, Van Jefferson. Mm, gonna be a tough offense to
Any
battle
receiver can
against.
thrive there in that
Yeah,
Rams offense.
and oh gosh, I mean Matt Stafford is throwing these guys open, man. He looked
Goff couldn't make some of those
no.
passes.
I liked what I
Yeah,
saw out of Jared Goff
yeah,
yesterday, but there was a reason why Sean McVay made this happen.
yeah.
So, and one last note on the Rams, I love those uniforms. I think they have the
They're cool. Yeah, I like those
freshest
things.
uniforms in the NFL, if you're asking me. Especially those defenders just look scary. Aaron Donald, dominant as ever, man.
Jalen Ramsey had some big time hits.
Yeah, these two guys. I mean, the fact that your defense is led by the best D tackle, not just in the league, but let's be real, one of the best D tackles of all time.
Ever. Yeah.
And then you've got Jalen Ramsey, who's making his own case at the cornerback position. It's scary, man. And those guys play with a different kind of swagger, man,
Hmm.
like an elite swagger. So, what a Sunday, man. What a Sunday.
It was definitely a toss all like, vanilla picks, predictions out the window, man. It was fun. It was fun to have football back too.
Absolutely, man. It was a blast. But let's cap off the video for the night with the Ravens at the Raiders, and let's make some predictions
Hmm.
within this game. Although, from what we saw yesterday, I mean, I think
Anything can happen, man.
both of us are ready to say that there's really not a lot of predictions to make. That the Ravens are going to blow out the Raiders, and this isn't going to be much of a Monday night contest. But
I don't know
I
anymore.
don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
I don't know anything about football. Is all I learned yesterday. But I still look for Lamar Jackson to put up like 5 touchdowns tonight. Um, but I think that this Raiders team might have some fight in them, bro.
It's the first game in Las Vegas with that new stadium. So I
Yeah,
am looking for a loud crowd.
yeah,
John Gruden, angry on the sidelines. Mike Mayock sitting in his pinstripe suit up in the stands.
yeah,
I'm looking for all these things. It's going to be a fun event for sure.
yeah.
I do think the Ravens cover the spread of before, which is around 3 points. I think it's now at like 4 points though, but I don't know if it's going to be too close of a game, but shit, if you look at yesterday, you just never know anymore, dude.
All right, well, we'll end it this way. One Ravens offensive player and one defender that you are looking forward to watching tonight.
Offensive player, man, it's hard to go outside of Lamar Jackson. He's going to
Yeah,
be the guy to really light it up. And then when you're talking about defender, it's just Marlon Humphrey.
yeah.
I think he's got to be the guy that really says, you know what, we understand Marcus Peters gone. I'm a stud at corner too, and I can really keep this defense rolling.
Yeah, offensively for me, I'm looking to the receiver core on this Ravens team to see who can step up outside of Mark Andrews at the tight end position, and just really to see, can Marquise Brown do something for this team?
Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, is Sammy Watkins going to ball out? Who's going to step up and be a primary target outside of Mark Andrews? And really looking at the running back room as well to see who's going to step up and what are we going to see out of these running backs and who's going to tear their ACL tonight. And I think you make a great point about Marcus Peters. That's really part of the defense that I'm looking forward to watching is how are they going to fill that kind of hole, right? But I'm also
Mhm.
interested to see how this D line plays with guys like Calais Campbell there, right?
Yeah.
So I think that this is going to be a really fun team to watch. So on the other side of things, who are you looking forward offensively and defensively to watch on the Raiders?
The Raiders on the defensive side, I do love Max Crosby. I think he's a badass on the D line. I think he's going to be really important to this game too because he's super involved in the run D. So I do think he's going to be pretty critical to stopping Lamar Jackson, whether he's running inside or outside. But on the Ravens side, I mean on the Raiders side, offensively, Kenyon Drake, bro. Because Josh Jacobs is actually, I don't even know if he's playing tonight because of his sickness. But either way, I do see him probably getting limited carry. So I think Kenyon Drake already kind of the back that I'm more excited about out of this offense. I think he's going to get a bigger workload today.
Yeah, I actually essentially have the same exact views. I want to see how this Raiders running back room evolves in this game behind a very poor offensive line that got very bad over the offseason, right? So I want to see how the running game looks overall. And then defensively, I want to see how this front seven defends the running attack of the Baltimore Ravens and that of Lamar Jackson overall. But one other note, I am looking forward to seeing who potentially emerges as the Raiders wide receiver #1? And is it Henry
Nobody.
Ruggs, who I drafted in our league, and I just am hoping that he shows some potential at the wide receiver 1 spot. But I do think there's going to be a lot to look forward to in this game from my perspective and your perspective, and people like us who are just football fans and football nerds, right? So there's always something to look forward, no matter who's playing, right? So nonetheless, man, that caps off our week 1 reactions. Outside of what we're going to see tonight, really just predictions, right? But it was a fun week, man. It's crazy, man. It comes and goes every year. It's over before you know it, man. So
Week 1's already in the books, baby.
Yeah,
I already gained 5 pounds from Football Sunday sacks.
We're going to definitely be gearing up here pretty heavy for week 2. And it's going to come and go just as fast as week 1 did. But yeah, man, it's a blast going over these reactions. Anything else from the week that you want to cap the video off with? Anything else that we didn't go over? I can't really think of anything.
No, this is when waiver wires and everything really start getting heated up. But I think the biggest thing is try not to make too many overreactions to anything that happened week 1.
Small sample size, man.
Yeah. I mean, shit. If I were to do that, I'd cut, Brandon Ayuk and get rid of everybody on my fucking team. So just hold your ground, boys and girls.
That's
and if you're a fantasy owner, don't give up yet.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to cap off the videos. I did beat you in fantasy. I mean, you can still technically beat me if Lamar Jackson's
going to get hurt, and then Mark Andrews is going to have, what do I need, like 70 points right now?
Something like that. So it's still technically, it could happen. So I did beat you in fantasy. Want to put that on record. But we will see if I can beat you in the playoffs. This is true. We will see. So with that being said, we thank you guys so much as always for watching and or listening, man. Let us know in the comments down below, what was your biggest takeaway from week 1? What games surprised you? What games didn't surprise you? What fantasy starts did you have that absolutely pissed you off? What fantasy starts did you have that made you absolutely ecstatic? Let us know overall what you guys thought of week 1 as a whole. Go and smash that like button, as it truly does help the channel out, gives us that little boost in the good old YouTube algorithm. And of course, we are on the road to 200 subscribers here at The Catch. You need a little sad Colts fan eating guacamole in your life day in and day out. You need a little bit of The Catch in your life day in and day out. We have tons more of NFL debate, NFL news, and fantasy updates for you guys coming throughout the entire season. So go ahead and become part of The Catch fam and hit that sub button. Steven, I will throw it over to you with any final closing thoughts for the night.
Yeah, just throw in. I want to hear the saddest story that you have from your fantasy this week. I mean, I can throw mine in about Brandon Ayuk, but I want to hear yours too, because I'm sure there's some other ones out there. So let us know in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We really do appreciate it, guys.
And we will cap it off, man. Thank you guys so much again for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.